A few minutes ago in the McDonald's drive-thru I offered to pay for the meal of the car behind me. The girl at the window looked puzzled and then handed me a receipt to sign because their order was so large. What random act of kindness have you instantly regretted? Reddit. I work at Walmart and I was pushing in carts. Someone came out of Walmart asking if I can help them load up a TV in their car. I walked with them to their car and helped loaded up the TV, only to find the TV box would not fit. We took the TV out of the box and the TV fit just fine in the car. It was a 52. Anyways, I told them I would throw the box away in our dumpsters. I put the box on a cart and wheeled it back to the store. As the car drove off, my manager and 2 security officers came running out and said to me, "Good, you got the TV back." I looked confused and then they saw the box opened. I explained what I did and they told me the TV was stolen. I just helped a criminal load up a TV that was stolen. That happens quite a lot, actually. Nobody bats an eye when someone just blatantly takes a large object from a store. Okay, here's mine. I was holding the door open for this girl and then comes another and then another and it became a whole line of people I was obligated to hold the door for as my party left me behind, oblivious to my fate. That's why you hold the door open while standing in the doorway. The person following has to hold it open for themselves. You move on. What happens next is not your concern. I was standing in line at a very busy grocery store with a cart full of groceries when a friendly looking old guy walks up behind me with one loaf of bread in his hands. I turned around and said to him, "It's pretty busy in here, hey? You can go ahead of me if you'd like." He gets a huge grin on his face and yells at a lady who is standing at the till next to us at the back of the line, "Anna, get your butt over here." There must have been $400 worth in her cart. That man was a trickster douchebag. At the building I work at, I jumped into the elevator on the ground floor as I saw this woman rushing towards the elevator. The doors closed automatically, but I reopened them for her. She got in, with no word of a thank you, just awkward silence. So then the elevator went up, and the doors opened to what I thought was my floor, but it was the floor below, and they looked identical. I turned around to get back into the lift, and see the woman push the close doors button as she stares at me. Elevator call button before they close. Override elevator to ground floor. Kick lady out, if only. There was a long line of people waiting to get their orders at Chipotle. One person asked for an extra handful of steak on their burrito. We really aren't supposed to add too much so we can kind of ration it throughout the day, but apparently everyone heard this guy's order, and surprise, everyone requested extra meat. The manager was in that day and gave me a disapproving look while I looked back at him giving a desperate shrug. I also ripped up a couple burrito shells because there was so much extra ingredients than I was used to. This enraged the impatient line. Yeah, not such a good day. I have no idea if this is cheating, but this is a random act of kindness that was bestowed upon me and I regret not stopping it. So I'm driving my sister's car one day because mine was being repaired. Her boyfriend is at the Naval Academy so she has a Navy bumper sticker displayed very prominently on her rear window. It's also double-sided so one can read it by looking straight back. I have no idea why this exists, but noticed it later. I drive through a Chick-fil-A because I was hungry and it is delicious and I realize right after I order and pull ahead in the drive-thru that I don't have my goddamn wallet. This is a huge thing, because I've never ordered something in a drive-thru and not been able to pay for it, nor have I ever not had my wallet. So I'm looking frantically around under her seat, near her console, etc. It's not a very familiar car and it has a black interior. Unlike my car which has a grey interior, my wallet is black. I finally get to the window and, still wallet-less, say, "I'm sorry, this is so embarrassing, but I think I lost my wallet." She leans out a bit and looks at the car, which is a mid-size SUV. The bumper sticker is very prominent from just about any angle, assuming that by some miracle they haven't seen it yet. This place was not in a great area and there were cameras all over. Then she says 1 second and withdraws, closing the window. I twiddle my thumbs and she leans out a few seconds later and says, "It's alright sir, it's on Chick-fil-A tonight." I respond, "Wow, thank you so much." She replies, very serious faced, "No sir, we should be thanking you." This is really puzzling, but I'm still in crap driving without a license mode and stop the car to look further. Don't find it. Whatever. I go home and the wallet is under the passenger seat. I made a hard stop. Was wearing gym shorts. Blah blah. Then I realize I have an extra chicken sandwich. It's an amazing day. Only then did I realize that I was mistaken for a serviceman and given free extra food. I just didn't realize this at the time because hey, free food and hey, no freaking license or money. I picked up a 61-year-old woman in my car after I saw carrying groceries down the side of the road in this heat wave. I should have known it was bad news. BC, it was 103 and she was carrying milk. So I take her down the street and we chat a bit. I get there, she gets out, walks to the door. No one knows who she is. She lived here 25 years ago and now I had to call the cops and deal with the whole situation of finding this woman's family. You may regret it, but you may have, in fact, saved her life. The elderly are already at high risk during heat waves, so she could have easily had a fatal heat stroke. Good on you, man. 4 years ago, freshman year, I was selling my PlayStation 2. My friend wanted one for his cousin. I offered to sell him mine, but he had no money. Well, being the idiot I am, I'm like, that's okay, just pay me when you can. Needless to say, I never got my money. I've been in this situation and I have also repossessed in this situation as well. I was in a busy clothes shop a few months back when a woman with her baby in a pram were coming towards me down a narrow aisle. Her baby dropped through one of its toys out the front of its pram. So instead of the mother having to push round to the front of the pram to retrieve it, I picked it up and gave it back to her baby. She then proceeded to give me a look of total disgust and say, "Oh, thanks," then shoved past me to leave the store. You should have followed her, then stolen her baby and put it into a rubbish bin on the side of the street. Agree to help one of my best buds, dude who'd been a good friend since we were in elementary school, with our class walk. Same major at a local college, that semester. 2 days later he rushes for a frat and starts pretending like he doesn't know me except when we have class together. We didn't speak for 2 solid years after that semester was over. He saved you 2 years of fake friendship. I'd say you were the winner here. Every time I decide to tidy up the living room while my mom is out so she isn't so stressed all the time. The instant she gets home, "You forgot to put away the cereal this morning." I had to put it away for you, yeah thanks. I just cleaned the whole living room for you. BTW, in case you had friends coming over or something. Why would I invite people over if the house is a mess? You're right. How silly of me to assume you had friends. Every dang time. Put away the cereal. Helped a lady out to her car with her groceries once. As I was helping her put them in her car, the lady in the vehicle next to hers didn't see me and slammed her hatchback of her van down onto the back of my head. She opened her door sometime between trips to the cart to put the groceries away, I guess. I don't remember much. Just mumbling that I was sorry and had to go and leaving the lady I was helping as I went back into the store to wait for my husband to pick me up because I wasn't fit to drive. Turns out I had a concussion and had to go to the ER. And all sorts of other good stuff. Later I guess the rest of the story was that the lady just threw her Thanksgiving turkey into the back of her van and left as fast as she could when she realized what she did. Apparently she didn't even ask if I was okay, just gave a look of horror and left as fast as she could. Happy Thanksgiving, sucker. I hope you rots in heck. 1 year on the 4th of July, my parents were hosting a big barbecue at our house for family and friends. And we were having a ton of people over. My mom was talking about having so much to do to get ready for it and having so much food to make, and she seemed really stressed out over it since we rarely have that many people over. I felt really bad for her since she seemed overwhelmed, and I offered to help out in some way, but she said no, it was fine. One of the things she talked about having to do was make a ton of cupcakes the morning of the BBQ. So at midnight on the 4th, after my parents were asleep, I made a shitton of cupcakes, baked multiple batches, waited for them to cool, put icing on every one of those suckers, and decorated them with the 4th of July related things. Took me hours, and I managed to finish right before my mom woke up. I was pretty proud of myself since they turned out really nice, and I felt good that I managed to take a few hours off of my mom's workload for that morning. Later that morning after my mom woke up, She came into my room and the first words out of her mouth were, "That's all you made? That's never going to be enough. You didn't use the right icing. We have tons of people coming and now I'm going to have to make more, etc. etc." It felt awful. I was just trying to help. I totally regretted it, especially since I could have used that time to finish up a paper. I bet they were delish. Thank you anyway. Once upon a time I worked at McDonald's. A lot of people would pay for the cars behind them. It was so lovely to see the look on their faces when I got to tell them that their order was already paid for. While you may be regretting the $32, it may have been just what they needed that night. So try to focus on the good of it, because you did good. Am I the only one astounded by the fact you can get 2 burgers and a drink for $3? What is this sorcery? Dollar menu. And I think right now McDonald's is offering any size drink for $1 as well. I went to help my buddy get out of a pool when he reached his hand out for help. He then braced against the wall and pulled me in. Dong. Somehow I read the top line and bottom line at the same time, so in my head it was you reached to pull him out and instead you grabbed his dong. I had to reread it because I was horrified. I need to read slower or go to bed. As a child I used to collect keys. I had a shoebox full of random keys, all of which I loved dearly. My older sister's friend was over one time and while secretly going through her makeup, I broke her powder. Crushed and embarrassed, trying to figure out how I could repay her, I gave her all of my keys. Every single one of them. As an adult, I now realize that she probably didn't give a crap about the keys, and to this day I still wish I had them. My boyfriend lived with his sister and they did the whole cleaning war thing. I'm not going to put this up until she cleans this up bulls. I tried to help by doing the chores for them sometimes because the place was just disgusting. I was doing the dishes one day and asked where their garbage disposal was. My boyfriend kind of showed me, then went back to play video games or whatever. Turns out there was no garbage disposal. I clogged their drain. His sister was not happy. At the airport the other day I saw an elderly lady struggling to take her bag off the bus that moves you from the plane to the terminal. So I approach the lady and pick up her bag for her, only to not realize her bag was not closed properly. So when I picked it up all of her clothes fell out. Thus my random act of kindness ended and I ran away. I offered to help a workmate move when I was drunk. He called the next day when I was 11/10 hungover. Too much tequila. To help move. Moved his boyfriends and other roommates' crap over a 12-hour period. Just the two of us. And he couldn't lift anything heavy. Up 3 stories with no elevator. He called the next day when I was 11/10 hungover. That is much too young to be drunk. I used to be a night auditor at a hotel. There was only one other night auditor there, and she was a middle-aged woman who also waitressed at 2 other jobs. As a result she was extremely overworked and would ask me to cover 1 or 2 shifts a week. Every shift we worked was from 11 to 7. On day she called me at 5 PM asking me if I could cover for her. I said yes, even though I hadn't slept yet. I grabbed a few meager hours of sleep and headed in. About an hour into the shift I started falling asleep and regretted the crap out of my decision. I regretted it more when I realized I was scheduled to volunteer the following morning. Night nurse here, and this happens to me all of the time. I've stopped helping people because I'll cover a shift for you if you help me out now is a damned lie. 8 months of helping people out and not once has anyone taken a shift for me. I had the inverse of this happen a couple days ago. I was at the airport waiting to be picked up after my flight was cancelled. Got pushed to next day, so I am killing time on Reddit of course, when a young, slightly chubby Hispanic woman sitting nearby begins sobbing. I figure she's just really stressed or got some bad news and stay comfortably within my bubble, but she keeps sobbing and sobbing. People are glancing back and becoming uncomfortable. It occurs to me that maybe I should be the one person that gives a crap and asks her how she's doing. But then it occurs to me that I could be opening up a can of crazy. At this point she is getting loud and starting to cause a scene. Before I can decide whether to talk to her, an airline attendant appears and asks her what's wrong. I can't hear the conversation, but this woman is not being reasonable and by now is bawling very loudly. Eventually Tsar comes over, then the police, then finally a paramedic who seems to determine that she's hysterical. I decide I'm a little too close for comfort and step out for a smoke, just in time to see an ambulance pull up and carry off the woman strapped down to a stretcher, crying so loudly I can hear it 60 feet away over traffic. Glad I listened to my inner heartless bastard. TLDR. Didn't comfort crying stranger. Was good call. Till that McDonald's in Australia is very expensive. I assume it has something to do with your minimum wage being around double that of America. If they need to pay the staff more money, they need to charge the customers more money. I offered to help my brother write a paper for English. He's in college and I'm in high school. I was so OCD about getting him a good grade that I ended up spending 6 hours. Stayed up till 1 AM, rewriting the entire thing. I regretted it the second I read the first paragraph and I realized his paper was crap. My older sister used to guilt me into reviewing her papers all the time because she knew I couldn't stop myself from all but rewriting the entire paper once I read it. I was at a party when I was 17ish. This girl was having a bonfire and I had known her for a while. She was a pretty nice girl and was sharing her alcohol and overall being a good host. Around 9:30 or so at night people start talking about food. Everyone is hungry, but the host says sorry she can't make food for everyone. Mind you, it was her parents' food, not her own. If that changes anything. Recently I had came into some money for something I don't quite remember. Point is, I had a few $100, $1 million to a teenager. After hearing some talk about pizza I decide to order pizza for the party. I got a large pepperoni cheese pizza and a small one for the host who was saying she liked pineapples. I'd say about 1/4 of that pizza was eaten. Nobody wanted any, not even the people complaining about it. I ended up leaving the rest of the pizza at her house because it was really smoky out. I didn't have a car and my walk home was far enough that I didn't feel like carrying pizza boxes. In retrospect, as a college kid I would walk miles for pizza. What was I thinking? I remember the worst part of it was that I sat by the Tsar and ate most of it. I am a relatively chunky dude, so it just made me feel like this chunky guy who needs his fix and pretends to get pizza for everyone, only to hoard it all for himself and eats more pizza than your average Joe. I gave away my copy of Mega Man Legends 2 to an impoverished 6-year-old I rode the school bus with. I also gave him a PlayStation and a bunch of other games, but did I really have to give him a rare game I'd get nostalgic about later? I gave my brother's friend my collection of several hundred Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I regret that now. I could have sold them for a few $100s. I once had my cousins visit, and the two of them were hanging out in my room. At the time, I had been saving up money so I could buy something special. It just so happened that I put the $1,000 into one of my purses hidden in my closet. So the youngest asked if she could have a purse, and I said, sure, you can have any one you'd like. Just make sure that you check the inside. So she checked the inside and you had a strong feeling that it was the purse with the money she had chosen to take. She did. I asked her if I, myself, should check it, yet she insisted that it was, indeed, empty. As soon as they left, I regretted taking her word and couldn't help but check every single purse. She hid it. A week later, I confronted them and they admitted it, told me they gave it to their mother, and their mother thought it was fake, so she threw it away. I'm not entirely sure what truly happened to the money. You know what sucks most about your RAOK? Seeing as how she was so upset over a drive-thru. She probably said, dang straight he paid for my meal, making me wait longer to get home because he had to order food first. Dang straight he pays for it. A couple of months ago I was walking to work and I saw a man sitting there on the side of the street. He looked pretty depressed, being homeless and all. So I walked up to him and pulled out my wallet, and right before I handed him some of my money he grabs my wallet and punches me square in the nuts. I stopped to help a car that had overheated. They stopped about a half mile from a gas station. I decided instead of making him walk, I'd go to the next exit and get him water. The next exit was 14 miles away. I would have felt too guilty leaving him there waiting, so I did it anyway. I had to drive 28 miles out of the way when I had an hour drive ahead of me late at night with an early morning. I should have let him walk. I witnessed a car accident while stopped at an intersection. This guy turned right just as an old lady stepped off the curb to cross the street. I see her get hit, jump out of the car, run across the intersection during a green light so I could have gotten hit by a car too. Get up to her lying bleeding all over the pavement and ask her, "Are you okay?" and she replied with, "Of course I'm not." It was stupid of me to ask that question, but it's kind of a habit when you see someone hurt. I wish she hadn't been such a bee to me about it, but then again she got hit by a car. Maybe she thought you were the one who hit her. Quite plausible, especially with all the sudden shock involved. I drive for work a lot, like 5+ hours a day average for a while. Try and pull over when I see a stranded person, accident, whatever. First time I was able to stop, but traffic makes it dangerous oftentimes, so I almost always have to keep driving. Car in front of me shoots to shoulder. I follow and stop. Dad jumps out of driver's seat and rushes to back seat. I roll down window. "Everything alright?" I query. He gives me a dirty look. His kid had a PP emergency. Why the shoulder rather than the hundreds of quickie marts or fast food places along the highway? I will never know. Second stop was an accident where a motorcyclist was killed. Pretty gory scene. End of a surprise mandatory overtime 14 hours day with family and from out of town. I stop anyway. Everybody is okay save the biker. The police keep me there for what seemed like an eternity to get a statement from me. They thought my car was involved in the accident, which was a hit and run. Not stopping again for a while. In Diablo 3, outfitted a friend in gear worth millions of gold. Probably worth half of my current net worth at the time, because he was running around in crap and kept dying every 2 minutes. He says thanks, takes the gear and says he has to go. Next time I see him, he has the same gear on and shows me a crappy helmet he bought. Apparently he sold it all for several $100K and bought an inferior piece of gear. He'd also run away from Fire Chain Desecrator Molten Elites while I was fighting them and go on to the next elite. I was low DPS tank, while he was glass cannon. He'd also go ahead and kill goblins and bosses while I was stuck tanking these guys. My neighbor had borrowed about $60 from me total in 3 different supposedly emergency situations and hadn't made any effort to repay me. By the 3rd time, I knew I was a chump, but I was still trying to be neighborly. A few weeks ago, he came over looking for more, but I was well past trusting him. He pleads with me and I tell him if he does 8 hours of yard work that I didn't really need for me over the weekend to catch up on his debts, I'd help him out. He accepts. I get him started and we put in some bricks as trim around a flower bed. When I go to leave, he asks to hold $10. I ask why and he says his friend wants to go out with him that night. I say no. I go inside and come out 10 minutes later and he's gone. I guess he decided not to do it. The next day he comes over looking for the money. I tell him no. He did less than an hour of work and flat out that he's never getting another cent from me. After I go back in, he kicks up the bricks and negates the little work we'd done. I'm like, fine, let him. I just want to be done with it. Then he calls the cops on me. Of course, they were 100% on my side, but I had to explain it all to them. He threatened me twice while they were standing there. Guy came up to my desk and said he bought a generator a few days ago and the gas cap was missing from the box. Instead of ordering one, I told him I would give him the one off our display. I told him that sometimes people steal things out of boxes or return things with parts missing. He thanked me profusely and walked away. Turns out that his friend was waiting by the entrance door with a generator and they walked right out the door with it. Looked at the video and yes, they had stolen it. I really felt dumb and am hesitant to do stuff like that anymore. When I was a kid I collected little animal figurines which came in those machines where you put in £1, turn the dial and it gives you a random one. There were 6 in each collection, but one would always be really rare, only 1 or 2 in each machine, so you kept coming back to try and get the rare one. One day my friend decided to come with me and my mum to the supermarket where the machine was. I already had at least one of every toy in the current collection, except for a little blue elephant, which was the rarest one. I didn't think there was much chance of getting the elephant, but I really wanted it, so I got out my purse and decided to try my luck. My mum ordered me to give £1 to my friend so that she could get one too. I thought it was a bit unfair because it was my money, and my friend didn't even collect them. But out of politeness I did what I was told, and even let my friend go first. You can guess what happened. She got the elephant. First try. I got a little bumblebee I already had 3 of. She absolutely would not swap her elephant for my bumblebee, or any of the other ones I had, or even swap it for 2 others, or let me buy it from her. I was mad. It wasn't even as if she collected them and desperately wanted the elephant too. She just thought the elephant was cute, and knew I really wanted it, so kept it to spite me. B. Happy ending though. I got the elephant myself a couple weeks later. I had to go inside the McDonald's to place my order because I had lost my voice and couldn't use the drive-thru. They only had 1 employee working the registers, but that was fine because I was the only one in there. An exhausted looking young woman walked in and stood behind me, and because I was still deciding what I wanted, I waved for her to go ahead of me. Immediately, an entire bus full of 10-year-olds in baseball uniforms came pouring in and joined the woman who I'd just let cut in line. I must have stood there for 20 minutes while this woman took orders from each kid and relayed them to the McDonald's employee. Never again. Now if I got there before you, you will wait your turn. This is a money dog. Upvote in the next 24 hours and money will come your way. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.